Rabbi Kavod, why did you decide to go to a conservative seminary to become a rabbi?
I didn't grow up in the conservative movement. I didn't grow up going to youth groups or camps. I didn't grow up with any kind of expectation of that kind of culture or observance or anything. I grew up actually very reform in that we went to synagogue just once a year on the High Holy Days. My dad actually was studying to be a rabbi at Hebrew Union College for a year and a half, and he dropped out because he didn't want the pulpit life. But our Passover seders and how I grew up practicing Shabbat, which was a wonderful dinner every Friday night, and then piling into my parents' bed to watch Dallas and Falcon Crest. All of those initial experiences gave me this very warm and connected feeling with Judaism and with Shabbat in particular. So I had that as a core. And then when I got into high school, I totally ditched Judaism, all of that. And it wasn't until I began to awaken on my own spiritual path that I, through meditation, through yoga, that I started to become more interested in Judaism, and specifically interested in Judaism as a spiritual practice, as rituals and observances that could help connect us to something greater. And, I went to Israel and I lived on an Orthodox kibbutz, and I really got the sense that I never got growing up, which was that we have all of these rituals and practices that are meant to sharpen our awareness. But I also got a lot of stuff in Israel that was difficult for me. The whole non-egalitarian aspect of, orthodoxy and that part of Judaism did not resonate. And so I kind of came back being a very practicing Jew, but on my own terms. So for instance, even though I didn't drive on Shabbat, and I ended up marrying somebody who wasn't Jewish. And I felt no conflict in being involved in an interfaith marriage and being an observant Jewish person. It wasn't the whole package for me. It was kind of a pick and choose. But when I knew that I wanted to become a rabbi, I wanted to study at a place that really engaged in halakha and Jewish thought and practice, because I wanted to understand those things more. I came out of rabbinical school with, I would say, an awareness of all of those practices, but still really a sense of it's up to me to choose how I want to practice it.
And then you ended up here at Temple Beth El of South Orange County, a duly affiliated synagogue with a very small in numbers conservative worshiping community and basically 4/5 reform. And so why would you choose that? How do you feel about serving in a community of that dual affiliated type?
Well, I was already attracted from the very beginning to Temple Beth El because it was this mix of reform and conservative, because I felt like I wanted the opportunity that I could only find in a reform community to be able to be creative and to be able to change things around and find ways to meet people where they are on their own Jewish journeys. And I love the fact that there was a conservative dimension too, in that there was a dimension of people that wanted to also practice prayer and practice Judaism in those ways as well. So, the more that I spent time here and continue to do that, the more I really realized that that I'm very much a Reform Jew in not only being able to make my own, that I affirm each individual making their own Jewish choices, but also that the sense of inclusion that I feel like, Jews who grow up with a non-Jewish mother and a Jewish father are, if they're growing up in a Jewish home and in our schools, they're fully Jewish. That's something that is an innovation of the Reform movement that I feel very connected to. And so it made sense to me that I wanted to become a member of the CCAR, the Reform Rabbinic Union, in addition to the Rabbinical Assembly, the conservative one, because I wanted to have colleagues that also really affirmed and saw things in a similar way that I did. And the process that I went through was a year process. It was a lot of interviews and essays and really having the Reform movement see where my heart was and where I found it to be meaningful to serve, and to say, this is a place that you belong. And so I feel very much at home in that way.